This is a safe space. Hello, Maja, Maja, wearing my own merchandise. What are we eating today? Hello. Oh, is it a piece of dirt that I see on this plate? No, it's fucking yogurt. Hello, welcome back to the channel. Hi, look at this funny thing. I'm wearing my own merchandise, link in bio and all that. Welcome back to Last Meals. Did you miss me? I had like a week's break. Did you not notice that was gone? Am I gonna cry? No. This is gonna be a short one. I prepped the research for this one like before going on a break. But yeah, this is the guy that is on all of the lists of like weird Last Meals. So I was like, who is this? What is his deal? His name is James Edward Smith. Not to be confused with James Smith, that is a super popular British name, so there's obviously a British criminal that has much more information on him, to be honest. Should have fucking tried to cover him, but no, this is where we're at. If you're new here, Homegirl has no skills, so she has created a series where the concept is super simple. Me, a girl, hi, Maja, hello, nice to meet you, handshake, sits down and she eats somebody's last meal, and that somebody just happened to have done some bad deeds in their life, and they're like usually on a death row. This usually is their special meal. And yeah, I just don't just eat for ASMR purposes. I tell you actually the story of the case. Just being judgmental Judies out there, what can we tell just by looking at this guy's last meal? Well, as I think I told you, if I haven't, this wasn't actually his first choice. Yeah. Well, spoiler alert, his choice was a lump of dirt. So what the fuck is that all about? Did he want to eat the lump of dirt? Did he want to do something else with it? Well, we have to stick around and find out. So, yogurt, yeah? Also, this is the brand of like my choice. It was just a plain yogurt that he chose, okay? So don't be like out there being like, hey, there wasn't this type of yogurt when he was executed and all that nonsense, right? Got it. Good. Okay, so natural yogurt, James Edward Smith. So he was born on the 19th of the 10th, 1952. Yeah. I'm gonna do disgusting things in this video. Yeah? No, it's not clean. Do you not do this? Judging me. Yogurt! Let me just eat it for a bit. It's actually breakfast time, I'm actually hungry. This is one of those cases where we have very little information, but even the info we have is more like to the back of the case rather than to the front. So we know really like few things about his childhood. So he was born 19th of the 10th, 1992, almost a Scorpio. If you notice, you know, people judge Scorpios a lot, but we're like not criminals at all. There's rarely anybody out there that committed a crime and was like, hey, his zodiac sign was a Scorpio, right? This is a safe space. So James was the third of 10 children, huge family, and he has left his household when he was only 17 years old. So he had like odd jobs here and there. In his 20s, he was a tarot card salesman. This is why I want to know more about this guy, but you can't find anything on the internet, like, Jesus. Did it have something to do with the fact that he was black? Most probably as well. So in his 20s he worked as a tarot card salesman and also as a taxi driver. And he claimed to be voodoo priest. Now notice that he claimed to be voodoo priest, so nothing particular, like nothing else that I can pinpoint from like your childhood, just because again there's no fucking information out there. There's no pictures of him or his family as like from his childhood days either. He is quite just literally famous for his last meal. He only surfaced on the radar of the police in 1983 when he was 31 years old, when he went to Union National Life Insurance Company in Houston. So he went in, his plan was obviously to rob this insurance place. So let's say like you walk in, right? So at the cashier window you have Deborah Wilson, and then you have Larry Rohus, who is like district manager of the company. So he kind of went to the cashier, asked her to like obviously, you know, put some money in like one of those garbage bags for him to get out. But instead, Larry wanted to protect her, so he was like, okay, cool, listen, I'm gonna put the money in. He like sort of like tries to shield Deborah, puts the money in, hands him the bag, and I think like this is when it clicked in James's brain, so he could have just taken the money and gone. But he turns around, shoots Larry in the chest, and when Larry dropped to the floor, he shoots him again. and then he legs it on the street. Some construction workers run after him, they catch him and subdue him, and obviously call the police. He is arrested then and there. So he's arrested, but obviously the police and ambulance is called to the scene. Deborah luckily managed to hide behind a filing cabinet, so she wasn't affected by the shots. However, Larry wasn't so lucky and the bullet went through his heart, so he was pronounced dead on the scene. Now we go to the trial, and even like during the juror selection process, James just again legs it. He manages to escape the courthouse, and again court employees just run after him to chase him on the streets. This is 80s. I mean, this reminds me of Ted Bundy's case, but this is the 80s. What the hell was going on? Did you just not keep people in fucking handcuffs during that period of time? They could just leg it out of the courthouse. The justice system was really lax back then, man. When you think about the really heartbreaking part of this case, it's the widow of Larry Rojas, because he didn't have to die. So she fought, so Deborah Rego, she fought like a beast for him, like for his execution. She basically said like she doesn't understand his defense attorneys for like defending him either, or like trying to block the execution because he didn't take into consideration her husband's life. She said killing him won't solve everything, but he gave up his right to live when he pulled the trigger. And although she remarried, she said like if she had a chance, she would have still faced James Smith to just ask him why. Like, what was your motivation? Why didn't you just run away with the money? Like, why shoot? He had no right to come in and do what he did and change my life forever, she said. My son was 1 year old and he robbed him of a chance to ever know his dad. So our boy James Edward Smith here, he didn't do himself much justice. He basically said like, oh, before this killing I actually committed 6 ritualistic kills in the neighborhood. And people are like, why do we know of like 6 other victims that have died apparently ritualistically, right? So they questioned his neighbors, they're like, hey, the people disappearing, there's just nobody reported in the neighborhood. They're like, no, we don't know what you're on about, like I think he's bullshitting. And then they pressed him for it and he was like, oh yeah, I lied. You're not doing yourself justice, Jamesy boy. And they were like, why did you lie? Like, why invent these ritualistic kills? He was like, well, guess what? When I said I killed James Edward Smith, I couldn't even get like half a paragraph in the newspaper. Like, I wasn't a big deal. But when I said I killed 6 people, that's when I got published everywhere in all the newspapers across the US. And they're like, you're a piece of shit. You're just there for the fucking shout-outs from people, like, are you okay? Now, what comes next kind of reminds me of like what a lot of these people want to do. They just like, they don't want to sit on death row. They don't want to spend there like a decade on there, which kind of I'm like, I understand. Because you're technically waiting to die, you're waiting for somebody to decide on your execution date and be like, yeah, this is when, you know, you're dying, and like people are just trying to make appeals for you, these defense attorneys. He said like, staying on a death row for a long time is fallacy, it's hypocrisy, it's like waste of everybody's time. However, he had a different reasoning behind this. So it's not that like he was like, oh yeah, I'm wasting government's money. No, he said, because he was sitting on the death row for about 2 years. So he said, I could have already been a 2-year child, like in another body. I could have been a 2-year prodigy. He also had like a random interview with this reporter who asked him like, do you think you're smart for like your own good? And he says, no, I think I'm smart for your own good. Like, oh, what are you doing, James? Are you okay? I genuinely cannot place with this guy, I cannot place the motive. So I genuinely think he had just killed just to make it to the papers. Be like, well, great, if this is your sad life story, sure. Make it to the papers by doing something brilliant, but no. And then he reproached that same reporter saying like, yeah, others just don't understand my philosophy, but they're like scoffing and like going against that fact that I'm thinking differently. This is now 1988, he is already like 37 years old, so he's been on that death row for about 4 to 5 years. And his mom is fighting for him. She is like trying to say he's incompetent to like weigh these appeals. So she is working with the defense attorneys while he is reproaching his mom and saying that these do-gooder defense attorneys and his mom again just don't understand him. And there will be some consequences if they actually manage to hold his execution. They're like, what consequences? Like, I didn't think about that, but there will be some consequences, mom. So he said he would even phone his mom and said like she doesn't want her to intervene this way, she doesn't want her to hold his execution. I gave her a blast, he said. I can't understand why, in seeking to save my life, she sought to destroy it in such a way. Like, she's your mom, like she wants you alive. Stop being a piece of shit, James. So he really fought because of this like voodoo spirit and like him probably believing in reincarnation and stuff. He really fought that his death is the opportunity for him to pass somewhere else, so to pass on to another life. So even before his execution, he would warn the guards that his ghost is gonna haunt Huntsville for about 300 years after his death. Like, sure, yeah. So finally, they give him the execution date and they're like, what do you want for your special meal? And he says a lump of dirt. Why? Why? Yeah, so they immediately like, okay, that's not on the prison menu, also, what the fuck? He's like, no, but I didn't plan to eat it. Can you change your mind? I didn't plan to eat it. I plan to sprinkle it all over my body so that he keeps these evil spirits of hunting and like trapping his body and soul in Huntsville. And they're like, still no, but still, what are you on about? So he says this is just like a voodoo ritual that like would help him with what he believed to be his reincarnation. They're like, okay, you're fucking weird, choose something that's on your menu. And he chose plain yogurt because he was plain, he was just plain. I just love how this case is so heavy on like some weird ass quotes by this guy. It's like literally the case has like 0 information, has like 100 quotes. So it's like, what the hell? So, his last words. I myself did not kill anyone, but I go to my death without begging for my life. I will not humiliate myself, I will let no man break me. He then smiled, winked and said, Hare Krishna. Yeah, Hare Krishna everybody. So he died on June the 6th, 1990 by lethal injection at around 12:31 AM. Yeah, I found that weird as well. 12:31 AM? Like, usually these capital punishments are either like in the afternoon, they're not like dead of the morning, so odd. He was the 3rd prisoner to be executed in the state of Texas and the 36th to be executed since the capital punishment was back in the game in 1983. So, what do you think about this case? This is it! Why did I just move like a fucking old lady? That was like a slow-mo. It's because my abs are that strong, okay? So, what did you think about this case? Like, there just wasn't too much information. It's just one of those popular cases where you're like, oh my god, he ordered a lump of dirt, ha ha ha. And then you actually look into the case and you're like, this is bland. But hey, it's on all of the lists and now you know the case. Kind of. Yeah, was he playing? Why do you think he killed? Like, do you actually think he just killed to make the headlines? Because that's kind of like the only motive I could find to this nonsensical case. I wish we knew more to his childhood. I really wish like people actually covered that and we knew, you know, why was he this tarot card salesman? Because that's like a weird ass job to have, okay? That's not just like car part salesman, it's like weird. It's like weird, okay? But yeah, drop down in the comments below what other cases you want me to cover, what's the next one that you want me to do. Maybe less popular but like with more information, because that would be fucking epic. Missed you, I'm glad to be back, I'm glad to be eating weird ass food. I think I have next one planned. I think. Because I'm really looking for cases that are not just like a lethal injection and are not so recent and that are maybe can be somewhere outside the US as well, but obviously it's like really hard to find. So like, hey, Middle Ages, what did they eat as their last meal before they were hanged? It isn't as big of a deal outside the US as it is there, so yeah, just help me out with those comments, right? Help a girl out. Until then, enjoy your next meal as if it was your last. Enjoy it. Don't ever underestimate it. You know, like, it could have been a lump of dirt, okay? Yeah. No, it couldn't, but yeah. Cool. Bye!